The vast expanse of space stretched out before Captain Zara Vega as she piloted her ship, the Stargazer, through the cosmic void. The ship's engines hummed softly, a comforting background noise that had become as familiar to Zara as her own heartbeat during her years of intergalactic exploration. Beside her in the co-pilot's seat sat her loyal companion, a golden retriever named Cosmos. His tail thumped rhythmically against the seat, his eyes fixed on the star-speckled view beyond the ship's reinforced windows. Zara smiled, reaching over to scratch behind his ears. "What do you think, boy? Another quiet day in the universe?" she asked, her voice warm with affection. Cosmos turned to her, tongue lolling out in a doggy grin, before his attention suddenly snapped back to the window. His ears perked up, and a low whine escaped his throat. Zara frowned, following his gaze. "What is it, Cosmos? What do you see?" As if in answer to her question, the ship's proximity alarm began to blare. Zara's hands flew across the control panel, bringing up the sensor readouts. A small craft had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, its trajectory erratic and unstable. "Looks like we've got company," Zara muttered, keying the communication system. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Zara Vega of the Earth exploration ship Stargazer. Do you require assistance?" Static crackled over the speakers for a moment before a voice responded, high-pitched and filled with panic. "Help. Please, help me." Without hesitation, Zara engaged the Stargazer's tractor beam, carefully maneuvering to bring the struggling craft into their docking bay. Cosmos whined again, pawing at Zara's leg. "I know, boy. Let's go see what's going on," she said, rising from her seat. As they made their way to the docking bay, Zara's mind raced with possibilities. In her years of exploration, she had encountered many different alien species, but the voice that had come over the comms hadn't sounded like any she recognized. The airlock hissed open, revealing the small craft now nestled securely in the Stargazer's hold. It was unlike any ship Zara had ever seen, its hull shimmering with an iridescent, almost organic quality. As she watched, a section of the craft seemed to ripple and part, forming an opening. A figure stumbled out, small and slender, with skin that glowed a soft lavender. Large, multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly, taking in the surroundings. The alien appeared young, perhaps even a child by their species standards. Zara took a step forward, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "Hello there. I'm Captain Zara Vega. Are you all right?" The young alien's gaze locked onto Zara, relief flooding its features. But then its eyes widened in terror, a scream tearing from its throat as it caught sight of Cosmos standing faithfully at Zara's side. "Monster!" the alien shrieked, scrambling backward until it pressed against its ship. "Keep it away." Zara blinked in surprise, looking down at Cosmos. The golden retriever cocked his head to the side, tail wagging slowly as he observed the newcomer with curiosity. "Whoa, easy there," Zara said, holding up her hands. "This is Cosmos. He's not a monster, he's my dog. My pet and companion." The alien's multifaceted eyes darted between Zara and Cosmos, confusion and fear warring on its face. "Pet. Companion." It stuttered, the words clearly unfamiliar. Zara nodded slowly, kneeling down beside Cosmos and placing a gentle hand on his back. "That's right. Where I come from on Earth, many humans have animal companions. Dogs like Cosmos are known for their loyalty and kindness. He won't hurt you, I promise." The young alien seemed to relax slightly, though it still eyed Cosmos warily. I have never seen such a creature," it admitted. "On my world, the only animals that resemble your dog are vicious predators that stalk the night." "I understand," Zara said softly, "but I assure you, Cosmos is gentle. May I ask your name? And what brought you out here in such distress?" The alien hesitated for a moment before responding. "I am called Lyra. I am fleeing from those who would harm me. My people, the Luminary, are not often found this far from our home system. But I had no choice. They were going to. Lyra's voice trailed off, multifaceted eyes shimmering with what Zara realized were tears. Whatever the young alien was running from, it was clearly traumatic. "It's okay," Zara said gently. "You're safe here. Why don't we go to the ship's common area? We can talk more comfortably there. And maybe get you something to eat and drink." Lyra nodded hesitantly, taking a cautious step forward. Cosmos, sensing the alien's unease, lay down on the floor, making himself appear as non-threatening as possible. As they made their way through the Stargazer's corridors, Zara couldn't help but marvel at the strange twists of fate that had brought them together. A human, a dog, and a young alien refugee, united by chance in the vast expanse of space. In the common area, Zara busied herself preparing a variety of foods and drinks, unsure what would be suitable for Lyra's biology. The young luminary perched on the edge of the seat, eyes constantly darting to Cosmos, who had settled himself in a corner, watching the proceedings with calm interest. "So, Lyra," Zara began, setting a tray of assorted items on the table between them. "Can you tell me more about why you're out here alone? It's unusual to encounter someone so young piloting the ship by themselves." Lyra's glow dimmed slightly, a sign Zara interpreted as distress. "My people, they are not as peaceful as they appear to outsiders. There are those among us who seek to change us, to make us into something we are not meant to be." "Change you how?" Zara asked, her curiosity piqued. "They wish to erase our empathy, our connection to others. They believe it makes us weak." Lyra's multifaceted eyes shimmered again. "I refused their treatments, so I became a fugitive." Zara felt a surge of sympathy for the young alien. "That's terrible, Lyra. I'm so sorry you had to go through that." As if sensing the emotional tension, Cosmos stood and padded softly over to where Lyra sat. The alien tensed, but didn't retreat. Slowly, carefully, Cosmos laid his head on Lyra's lap, looking up with soft, understanding eyes. Lyra froze for a moment, then tentatively reached out a hand, gently touching Cosmos' fur. "It's soft," Lyra said, wonder creeping into their voice. Zara smiled. "Cosmos has a way of knowing when someone needs comfort. It's one of the many reasons dogs became such beloved companions for humans." As Lyra continued to pet Cosmos, the alien's glow brightened, fear giving way to curiosity. Perhaps I judged too quickly. Your dog is indeed unlike the beasts of my world. Often, the things we fear most are simply the things we don't understand," Zara said. "Now, why don't you tell me more about your situation? Maybe we can figure out a way to help." As Lyra began to speak, Zara felt a familiar thrill of excitement. This unexpected encounter was precisely why she had become an explorer, to meet new beings, to learn, to help where she could. With Cosmos providing silent support and Lyra gradually opening up, Zara knew that this was the beginning of an adventure unlike any she had experienced before. The stars continued to drift by outside the Stargazer's windows, a silent reminder of the vast, unknown universe that awaited them. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Zara was certain of one thing: with compassion, understanding, and a little help from a friendly golden retriever, even the greatest of galactic divides could be bridged. The soft hum of the Stargazer's engines provided a soothing backdrop as Zara, Lyra, and Cosmos settled into an uneasy coexistence. Hours had passed since their initial encounter, and the young luminary's fear had gradually given way to a cautious curiosity. Zara watched with amusement as Lyra's multifaceted eyes followed Cosmos' every move. The golden retriever, ever patient, had taken to lying near Lyra's feet, his tail thumping gently against the floor whenever the alien's gaze met his. "I still do not understand," Lyra said, breaking the comfortable silence. "You say this creature is your companion. But how can that be? On my world, we do not form bonds with lesser beings." Zara leaned back in her chair, considering her words carefully. "Well, Lyra, on Earth, We've lived alongside animals for thousands of years. Dogs, in particular, have been our companions for so long that we've evolved together in many ways. Lyra's brow furrowed, the soft glow of their skin pulsing with confusion. Evolved. Together. But you are clearly the superior species. Why would you allow a lesser being to influence your development? It's not about superiority, Zora explained, reaching down to scratch Cosmos behind the ears. It's about partnership. Dogs have skills and senses that humans don't. They can hear and smell things we can't, and they have an incredible capacity for loyalty and love. As if to demonstrate, Cosmos stood and patted over to Lyra, gently placing his head on the alien's lap. Lyra stiffened for a moment before hesitantly placing a hand on Cosmos's head. He wants me to touch him?" Lyra asked, wonder creeping into their voice. Zara nodded, smiling. "He can sense that you're unsure, and maybe a little scared. He's trying to comfort you." Lyra's glow brightened slightly, a sign Zara had come to associate with positive emotions. "Fascinating. On my world, touch is reserved only for the closest of bonds. To think that this creature would offer such intimacy so freely." As Lyra continued to pet Cosmos, Zara seized the opportunity to learn more about her unexpected guest. "You mentioned that on your world, you don't form bonds with other species. Can you tell me more about luminary society?" Lyra's glow dimmed, their hands stilling on Cosmos' fur. "Our society, it is not as it once was. In the past, we were known throughout the galaxy as diplomats and peacekeepers. Our empathic abilities allowed us to bridge divides between species, to foster understanding where there was conflict." "That sounds like a noble calling," Zara said, leaning forward with interest. Lyra nodded, their eyes taking on a distant look. "It was. But over time, some among us began to see our empathy as a weakness. They argued that by opening ourselves to the emotions of others, we made ourselves vulnerable. That to truly protect our people, we needed to close ourselves off, to become harder." Zara frowned. "And that's why you fled? Because you didn't agree with this new philosophy?" "Yes," Lyra said softly. "They developed a procedure, a way to dampen our empathic abilities. They called it emotional security, but I saw it for what it was, a way to turn us into something we were never meant to be." Cosmos whined softly, sensing Lyra's distress. The alien looked down at the dog in surprise, then back to Zara. "Your companion. He can sense my emotions." Zara nodded. "Dogs are incredibly empathetic creatures. They might not have the advanced abilities your people do, but they're very in tune with the emotions of those around them." Lyra's glow pulsed with a mix of confusion and wonder. "But how can this be? You said he is a lesser being, yet he possesses abilities similar to my own people." "I think you might be misunderstanding me, Lyra," Zara said gently. "When I say dogs are different from humans, I don't mean they're lesser. They're just different. Each species has its own strengths and weaknesses. The key is learning how to work together, to complement each other." As if to emphasize Zara's point, the ship's proximity alarm suddenly blared to life. Cosmos' ears perked up, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Zara leaped to her feet, rushing to the nearest control panel. Her fingers flew over the keys, bringing up the sensor readouts. What she saw made her blood run cold. "Lyra," she said, her voice tight with tension, "I think your pursuers might have caught up with us." The young luminary's glow flickered with fear. No, they can't have found me so quickly." Zara's mind raced, assessing their options. The approaching ship was larger than the Stargazer, likely better armed. Running wasn't an option. They'd be caught before they could reach the nearest safe harbor. "Okay, we need to think fast," Zara said, turning to face Lyra. "Is there anything you can tell me about their capabilities? Any weaknesses we might be able to exploit?" Lyra's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly, their glow pulsing with panic. I don't know. I'm not a warrior. I'm just a student. I never thought." Cosmos nudged Lyra's hand, his warm brown eyes looking up at the alien with unwavering support. The simple gesture seemed to calm Lyra, their glow stabilizing. "Wait," Lyra said, their voice growing stronger. "They're ships. They're partially organic, like mine. They're sensitive to certain energy frequencies. If we could generate a powerful enough pulse at the right frequency, it might disorient their systems." Zara's eyes lit up. "That's brilliant, Lyra. I think I can modify our deflector array to emit that kind of pulse, but I'll need time." The ship shuddered as a warning shot streaked past their bow. A voice crackled over the comms, cold and devoid of emotion. "Luminary fugitive, power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will not be tolerated." Zara's jaw set in determination. "Lyra, I need you to buy us some time. Can you open a channel to them? Try to reason with them. Appeal to whatever empathy they might have left." Lyra's glow flickered with uncertainty. I can try. But what if they don't listen?" Zara placed a reassuring hand on Lyra's shoulder. "Then we'll face whatever comes together. Cosmos and I aren't about to abandon you now." As Lyra moved to the communications panel, Zara turned her attention to modifying the deflector array. Her fingers flew over the controls, rerouting power and reconfiguring systems. Cosmos stood at attention by her side, his presence a comforting reminder of the unlikely alliance they had formed. Outside the viewports, the stars seemed to hold their breath as the stargazer faced off against the looming luminary vessel. In the vast expanse of space, three disparate beings, a human, an alien, and a dog, prepared to make their stand. The next few moments would determine not just their fate, but potentially the future of interspecies understanding in this corner of the galaxy. As Zara worked feverishly on the deflector modifications, she couldn't help but marvel at the strange twists of fate that had brought them to this point. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: the universe would never be quite the same again. Dangerous pursuit. The stargazer trembled as another warning shot blazed past, missing the hull by mere meters. Inside the ship, an atmosphere of tense concentration had settled over its unlikely crew. Zara's fingers danced across the control panel, sweat beading on her brow as she raced to modify the deflector array. Beside her, Cosmos stood alert, his ears pricked forward, and his eyes fixed on the viewscreen showing the looming luminary vessel. At the communications station, Lyra's voice quavered as they addressed their pursuers. "Please, this is Lyra Solstice. I implore you to cease your aggression. We can discuss this peacefully." A cold, emotionless voice crackled through the speakers in response. "Fugitive Lyra Solstice, your attempts at negotiation are futile. Power down your systems immediately and prepare for boarding. This is your final warning." Lyra's glow dimmed with despair, but Zara called out without looking up from her work. "Keep them talking, Lyra. Every second counts." Drawing a deep breath, Lyra continued, "Elder Vox, I know you're leading this pursuit. Remember when you taught me about the importance of understanding other cultures, about how our empathy was our greatest strength." There was a pause, and for a moment, hope flickered in Lyra's multifaceted eyes. But when the reply came, it was as cold as ever. "The Lyra who learned those lessons is gone. You are nothing but a malfunctioning unit now, clinging to outdated ideologies. Your retrieval and reprogramming is for the greater good of all Luminary." Zara growled under her breath, her hands moving even faster over the controls. "Almost there," she muttered. "Just need to calibrate the frequency." Cosmos suddenly let out a low whine, pawing at Zora's leg. She glanced down at him, then followed his gaze to a flashing indicator on a nearby panel. Her eyes widened. "They're powering up weapons. Lyra, we're out of time." Lyra's glow pulsed with panic. "What do we do?" "Trust me," Zara said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. She took a deep breath, then slammed her hand down on the activation control. "Brace yourselves." A high-pitched whine filled the air as the modified deflector array sprang to life. On the view screen, the luminary ship seemed to shudder, its sleek organic hull rippling like water disturbed by a stone. "It's working," Lyra exclaimed, their glow brightening with hope. But their elation was short-lived. As quickly as it had begun, the effect on the luminary ship ceased. A harsh voice cut through the comms. "Crude tactics. Did you really think we wouldn't adapt? Prepared to be disabled and boarded." Zara's mind raced. The deflector pulse had bought them a few precious moments, but it wasn't enough. They needed something more, something unexpected. Her gaze fell on Cosmos, still standing faithfully by her side, and an idea began to form. It was risky, possibly even crazy, but it might be their only chance. "Lyra," she said, her voice tight with urgency, "you said your people are empaths, right? Can you project emotions as well as receive them?" Lyra blinked in confusion. "Yes, but it requires physical contact and intense concentration." "Why?" "I need you to project everything you're feeling right now. Your fear, your hope, your determination, and channel it through Cosmos, through your companion." Lyra's glow pulsed with bewilderment. "But why?" "Dogs have a special connection with humans," Zora explained quickly. "They can pick up on our emotions and sometimes even influence them. If we combine your empathic abilities with Cosmos's natural talents, we might be able to create an emotional shockwave strong enough to overwhelm the luminary ship's crew." Lyra's multifaceted eyes widened. That's unprecedented. I've never heard of anything like it." "Neither have I," Zora admitted. "But right now, unprecedented might be exactly what we need." Another blast rocked the ship, and warning lights began to flash across the control panels. They were running out of time. "Okay," Lyra said, their voice strengthening with resolve. "I'll try." Zara knelt beside Cosmos, looking into his warm brown eyes. "Ready for this, boy? It's going to be rough, but I know you can do it." Cosmos gave a soft woof of affirmation, his tail wagging once before he stood at attention, ready for whatever was to come. Lyra approached cautiously, their hand hovering over Cosmos's head. I'm not sure how this will affect him." "Are you certain?" Zara nodded grimly. "We don't have any other choice. Do it." Taking a deep breath, Lyra placed their hand on Cosmos's head. Immediately, the dog's eyes widened, and a small whimper escaped him. Lyra's glow began to pulse rapidly, growing brighter and brighter until it was almost painful to look at. Zara watched in awe as a visible wave of energy seemed to emanate from Cosmos, rippling through the air like heat haze. On the view screen, the luminary ship shuddered again, more violently this time. "It's working," Zara exclaimed. "Keep going." Lyra's face was contorted with concentration, their glow now so bright it illuminated the entire bridge. Cosmos stood rigid, his fur standing on end, but his eyes remained fixed on Zara, filled with unwavering trust. The comms crackled to life, but instead of the cold, emotionless voice they had heard before, it was filled with confusion and something else. Emotion. "What? What is happening?" The voice of Elder Vox trembled. "These feelings. I had forgotten." Zara leaned forward, seizing the opportunity. "Elder Vox, listen to me. What you're feeling now, that's what you're trying to erase from your people. But it's not a weakness. It's what makes life worth living. It's what allows us to connect, to understand each other across the vastness of space." There was a long pause, filled only by the sound of labored breathing over the comms. Finally, Elder Vox spoke again, his voice thick with emotion. I remember now. What we've been doing. It's wrong. We've lost our way." Lyra's glow dimmed slightly as they sagged with relief, their hands still resting on Cosmos's head. "Elder Vox, please. It's not too late to change course, to remember who we truly are." The tension on the bridge was palpable as they waited for a response. Finally, the Elder's voice came through once more, softer now, filled with a warmth that had been absent before. "You're right, young Lyra. We have much to atone for, and much to relearn. Stand down, All ships. The pursuit is over. As the luminary vessels began to power down their weapons, Lyra collapsed to their knees, overcome with emotion. Cosmos, released from the empathic connection, immediately went to the young alien's side, offering comfort with gentle muzzles. Zara let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding, slumping back in her chair. They had done it. Against all odds, they had found a way to bridge the gap between species, to remind the luminary of the very empathy they had been trying to erase. As she watched Lyra embrace Cosmos, tears of joy and relief streaming down their luminescent face, Zora couldn't help but smile. In this moment of crisis, it wasn't advanced technology or military might that had saved them. It was understanding, compassion, and the unbreakable bond between a human and her dog. The stars outside the viewport seemed to twinkle a little brighter, as if in celebration of this small but significant victory for empathy and cooperation in the vast, often lonely expanse of space. But even as relief washed over them, Zara knew their journey was far from over. The luminary had much healing to do, and the repercussions of this encounter would undoubtedly ripple across the galaxy. Whatever challenges lay ahead, however, she was certain of one thing. They would face them together, human, alien, and canine, united in an unlikely but unbreakable alliance.